There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon. And with me today, retired NYPD detective and straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. How's it going?
Good to see you, Billy. I'm very happy to be on the air with you at this point that the New York City Police Department has arrested this terrorist.
You know, absolutely. And we kept saying early on, this guy is not a person of interest. He's a perp. He's a wanted suspect. Let's call him what he is. And we were calling that. Remember, I said they were saying he was 5'5", 180. I go, guy with a fat head like that got to be over 200 something pounds, right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not trying to make jokes about this. This is a great thing for New York City, a great thing for all the victims, a great thing for the police that grabbed them, the public that cooperated and called us into Crime Stoppers. A person that saw him out on the street and took video and then posted it to social media, and that also alerted the police.
Yeah.
So on several fronts, a lot of kudos go out there. Another thing, Phil, I'm going to say, and we'll get into this a little bit later, I'm glad the feds are going to prosecute him because they're going to prosecute him. They would have sent him to the Brooklyn DA. He would have gave him a sandwich, sent them home on bail, and it would be a joke. The feds are going to charge him with a terroristic act, and he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life.
Absolutely, Billy. And under the federal statute, there could be possibly a death penalty sentence here. Obviously, the sentencing guidelines under the federal system is much more stringent. It's much tougher. The guidelines with regard to good behavior, a lot less time is taken off for things like that. So, yeah, I'm glad he's being prosecuted by the feds. That's what it's called for in this situation. And a quick point that I want to make about what you were saying, you know, the initial reports and all the confusion, they were saying that he was 5'5" and maybe a thin build or a slim build. Obviously, he's not. So, you know, in the thick of chaos, you know, a lot of times when things are very fluid and liquid, miscommunication or people just remember things differently, that's indicative of situations like this.
You know, people are so spoiled, and I say this all the time, with how good the NYPD is. Less than 30 hours, they grabbed this guy. You know, a terrorist, an actual terrorist on a train spraying people with gunfire. And, you know, I know it's not popular, it's not politically correct, it's not woke for our politicians to call him a terrorist, a homegrown terrorist, but that's what he is. He's on a train spraying people with gunfire. I know he's probably an EDP. He's probably an emotionally disturbed person. That's good. But I'm not saying that's good, but that shouldn't be considered. He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law so the next EDP doesn't consider going on the subway with a gun.
I'm sure there's going to be evaluations, psychological in nature, to determine whether or not he's going to be competent to stand trial. But Bill, you're pointing out something very, very important. There's Facebook and YouTube postings of this guy making anti-Semitic, racial, anti-white statements on YouTube. Now, YouTube, Facebook, they're all very quick to censor things when they come from the right side of the aisle, conservative aisle. You know, obviously, President Trump and numerous other people have been censored by Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Now, during the press conference, which I'm sure you're going to play some of it, the FBI states there was no active investigation on this guy anytime in the past or currently. So where was YouTube? Where was Facebook when he was making these outlandish statements? They should have notified the FBI. They should have notified law enforcement some way, shape, or form. That slips through the cracks. But if someone makes a conservative statement on any of these platforms, these social media platforms, they're very quickly censored.
Phil, you're so right. Oh, LJK, a new member to our YouTube family. Thank you so much, LJK, for joining. Now you have the Irish font. You have the green font in your when you want to talk in the chat. But thank you so much for joining our YouTube family. Also, Urban Infidel, you made a great statement, and this is so true in gauging competence of a criminal defendant. An awful lot of planning went into this crime spree. He's competent.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 100,000%. He planned all of this. Right? That, are they going to now say, if it was a New York City court and you had the Brooklyn DA's office, they'd probably be calling legal aid for him and get him a mentally impaired status so that he could beat these charges, not the feds. He's going to prison. He's going to a federal prison, somewhere out west.
Billy, the planning is obvious that it was very, very intricate planning for this heinous crime that he executed yesterday. But there's also cryptic messages on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm sure they're going to put all of those things together. There's a deep dive going on currently as we speak into this guy's history. I'm sure his social media is being looked at with a fine-tooth comb. And there's going to be numerous interviews of people around him. I just hope that everyone's cooperative and, will put forth whatever information they have. I mean, they were the news at noon. They were asking for anyone with information to come forward with video. If you were on the train, please come forward, give a statement, descriptions, whatever. And now, even though he's under arrest, even though he's incarcerated at this moment, they still need to do that. Every bit of evidence will be helpful in putting this guy where he belongs, behind bars. And it could also possibly shine light on if there was anybody else involved in this situation, this madman's, the rampage that he went on. And maybe we can do things to prevent it. We can shine the light on Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of the social media apparatus that are out there to report these type of things. Where are their algorithms? I'm surprised they didn't catch this. They catch a lot of other things in conservative.
Yeah, outrageous. I'm going to play a little bit of the press conference now. And deservedly, they get a chance. They can spike the football. They can jump up and down. They can, go out for drinks tonight after this because it's really a thing to celebrate. Law enforcement did a fantastic job. Let me play this here. Oh, hang on one second.
Commissioner of the City of New York, Keyshawn Sewell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I am truly fortunate to stand here among these extraordinary investigators and federal partners to make this announcement. Moments ago, Frank Robert James was stopped on the street and arrested by members of the New York City Police Department. Officers, in response to a Crime Stoppers tip, stopped Mr. James at 1:42 p.m. at the corner of St. Mark's Place and First Avenue in Manhattan. He was taken into custody without incident and has been transported to an NYPD facility. He will be charged with committing yesterday's appalling crime in Brooklyn. I want to commend all of the investigators and analysts who took part in this all-hands-on-deck investigation. Literally, hundreds of NYPD detectives worked doggedly during the last 30 hours to bring this together. They did so in tandem with a vast number of our law enforcement partners, including those from the FBI NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force, the ATF NYPD Crime Gun Intelligence Center, and the Regional Task Force led by the United States Marshal Service. We hope this arrest brings some solace to the victims and the people of the city of New York. We used every resource at our disposal to gather and process significant evidence that directly links Mr. James to the shooting. We were able to shrink his world quickly. There was nowhere left for him to run. I'd like to turn it over to Chief James Essick for details of the investigation.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to update the public on yesterday's incident on the subway in Brooklyn on the Manhattan-bound N train. Through the course of this investigation, we developed additional information and evidence. Mr. Frank James, our person of interest, now became a wanted individual for yesterday's horrific incident. Mr. James is a male, 62 years old. He is known to us and has ties in Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York City. His arrest history in New York is 9 prior arrests dating from 1992 to 1998. Those include possession of burglary tools 4 times, criminal sex act, theft of service 2 times. He was arrested on a New Jersey warrant. He also has a criminal tampering. He has 3 arrests in New Jersey. 1991, 1992, and 2007. They are for trespass, larceny, and disorderly conduct. So yesterday, we recovered video of him prior to the incident entering the Kings Highway subway station. He has the same black cart that he has later recovered on the crime scene. The pictures are to my right over here. This
It's available electronically after this.
This station is 3 blocks from where we recovered the U-Haul truck that he rented in Philadelphia. The key to that truck was recovered at the crime scene. This jacket, the distinctive orange jacket, was also recovered, as well as his construction helmet he was wearing, and we recovered that in a garbage bin in transit. We believe, but this is still early in the investigation, that after firing his weapon 33 times at innocent New York City subway riders, Mr. James boarded an R train that had pulled into the station, went one stop up, and exited at 25th Street Station. We also have a picture of that. The gun used in this, a 9mm Glock, which was recovered at this crime scene, was purchased by Mr. James in 2011 in Ohio. We tracked Mr. James, and his last known whereabouts was 7th Avenue and 9th Street in Park Slope, entering the subway. Minutes ago, thankfully, NYPD patrol officers from the 9th Precinct responded to St. Mark's and 1st Avenue, where they apprehended him without incident. This case was quickly solved using technology, video canvassing, and then getting that information out to the public. So I can't speak highly enough of the partners we had, the FBI, Mike Driscoll, ATF, John DeVito, U.S. District Attorney from Easton, Breon Peace, and the coordination within the Detective Bureau, Tommy Galati from Intel, our Transit Bureau, our Patrol Services Bureau. Phenomenal job, less than 30 hours later to arrest this individual. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Breon Peace.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Yesterday was a dark day for all of us, but the bright spots of the incredible heroism of our fellow New Yorkers helping each other in a time of crisis, the quick response by our first responders, and the hard work by all of our law enforcement partners that has been ongoing is truly a bright spot here. Today, Frank James has been charged by complaint in Brooklyn Federal Court with 1 count of violating 18 U.S.C. sections 1992 A7 and B1, which prohibits terrorist and other violent attacks against mass transportation systems. He has been apprehended. He will be arraigned in federal court in Brooklyn, and if convicted, he will face a sentence of up to life imprisonment. My office.
I'm from Syria. Where do you live? I live in Jersey. Where in Jersey? Union City.
Sunset Park, Brooklyn, in the Eastern District of New York, Frank James did knowingly and without lawful authority and permission commit an act, including the use of a dangerous weapon with the intent to cause death and serious bodily injury to passengers and MTA employees on the New York City subway system. The government will prove, among other things, that James traveled across state lines in order to commit the offense and transported materials across a state line in aid of the commission of the offense. We, in the Eastern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office, are working closely with all of our law enforcement partners, the FBI, NYPD, ATF, U.S. Marshal Service, and others, including the Kings County District Attorney's Office. And my office and our law enforcement partners will use every tool at our disposal to bring this individual justice and bring justice to New Yorkers and restore safety and peace of mind to all. And we'll continue to do so as this case proceeds. Thank you.
Mike?
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. As Mr. Peace just discussed, Mr. James is now facing a federal charge for his actions, a terrorist attack on mass transit. We have two ways that you can get in contact with us, because I want to be very clear that this is still an ongoing investigation. If you have additional information regarding Mr. James's activity, or if you have digital information, please reach out to us. Contact the FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you can provide digital media through fbi.gov/Brooklyn shooting. We need to hear from you so we can fully understand all the events that have occurred over the last 30 hours. It's crucial that we receive the assistance of the public as we piece this case together. There has been some reports that FBI holdings to date had a tie to Mr. James. I want to be very clear that to date, we have found no record of an investigation of Frank R. James by an FBI office before the shooting yesterday. Reports that FBI's New Mexico field office previously investigated him are inaccurate. I want to thank our partners in this case, the NYPD, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and all the members of the FBI NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force. We've had such a tremendous response from all of our partners in this case that have led us to this moment now. I also want to take a quick moment to highlight the work of the JTTF. I'm fortunate I get to work with them every day. It's truly an outstanding group of people, led by SAC Kerry Farley, who spearheaded this investigation. They've done an outstanding job on this, as they have every time New York has faced a threat of this nature. So thank you, and I'd like to turn it over to John DeVito from the ATF.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is John DeVito. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for ATF here in New York State. One of the key points that A. Dick Driscoll pointed out was that we could not have done this without the public's help. First, let me say our thoughts and prayers and actions for the past 2 days have been with the victims as well as all New Yorkers. The men and women of ATF have been working side by side with NYPD, FDNY, the Marshals, FBI to solve this heinous crime, which we have. Immediately after the attack, New York City Crime Gun Intelligence Center, or CGIC, which is a unit comprised of highly skilled analysts, investigators from ATF, NYPD, as well as a myriad of other vital partners, whose sole purpose is to collect, analyze, and disseminate actionable intelligence regarding gun violence. Just imagine a team of dedicated professionals exploiting every nugget of intel from gun violence, the firearms, and then weaponizing that information to use it against the people that are terrorizing our communities. That's your CGIC. The timeline on this gun's life spans 16 years in 5 states. And I'm very proud to say that late yesterday evening, about 12 hours after this attack, ATF agents were able to close the loop on that extensive time span and determine that Frank James purchased said firearm from a federal firearms licensee in Ohio in 2011. So essentially, we tied that gun utilizing the shooting to our target, and now we have our target in custody. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to be in that we've told you almost everything we have to say, able to answer some very limited questions. Tina.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Crime Stoppers? There's some reports they called themselves in.
There was a person who called Crime Stoppers. We're reviewing who exactly made that call.
So I don't think we need to hear all of the questions coming from the media, because I don't think their questions will be that pertinent to this investigation. However, you could see this was totally a team game here, and a team law enforcement worked together. They did an unbelievable job. Less than 30 hours, they get this guy, the subway shooter, who shot 10 people, 5 people critically injured, 21, in an elaborate plot. You know, he also had a hatchet in his bag of tricks that he brought on to the subway. I think a can or some container of gasoline, as well as numerous smoke bombs. You know, one of the questions I have too, and I know he had a record of, I think, 9 arrests from 1992 to 1998, but how was he able to legally purchase a firearm? It said he bought it from a federal firearms dealer. Now, was there no background check? Because if you had conducted a background check on this guy he would have came up with his 9 arrests. And I don't think he would have been able to legally purchase that firearm.
At that press conference, I believe that question was asked, and the way that they responded to it was, I guess it might be because of the state that he wasn't convicted of a felony at the time when he purchased that firearm. Could have been arrested for felonies. However, he was never convicted of a felony. That's how they said he was able to purchase that firearm. That's what I saw on that press conference. I don't know if that to be true, but again, how you make such a great point, Bill. He's got a long criminal history. How is he in possession of a legally held firearm, or how does he purchase it? I mean, whether it's legally or not, but who would sell someone a firearm and not do a background check on him and find out that he's got a long criminal history?
Yeah, I mean, I find that a little perturbing. But the other thing is that the FBI special agent in charge said he slammed the door on the fact that Mr. James was not on the FBI watch list, because some people were talking about that. Oh, by the way, Mike Papagallo and Tom Cusinelli, thank you so much for your $5 super chats. Very much appreciated. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you're not subscribed to us, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon. You could join us on our Patreon. We have 3 different levels. And we have a YouTube channel members with 5 different levels, and you can support us that way. See the folks in the chat with the green font. They're part of the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories family, and we appreciate you guys. So, you know, some of the things that we spoke about, and you won't hear this on the regular news, but you'll hear it on Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, is the political mileage that they're trying to get out of this. And one of the things that I disagree with so much in journalism is how they make a point through not commission, but omission, by leaving things out, by not reporting certain things because they're trying to make some kind of political statement. And then there's overt and, reporting also. And right away yesterday, Mayor Adams went right to the Second Amendment thing, right to that. We got to start attacking the guns, the ghosts. That has nothing to do with it. The person that fires the gun should be locked up and put in jail. They're already talking about, he needed services. Are you kidding me? We are getting sick of hearing this. Citizens of New York are getting sick of hearing this. Citizens of the United States of America are getting sick of hearing this perp, just bowing down to the perp instead of, no, he belongs in prison.
100%, Billy. The politics, as I said before, could wait. What we had here was a great cooperation. This is where the media becomes very, very important in getting out the word. They got out the photographs. They got out the surveillance photos. They got out the vehicle information right away. That's what helped close this guy's world down, as the police commissioner said. They tightened the noose around him. And with that cooperation with the media, that's where the media becomes a very, very important instrument in law enforcement. It led to that picture that you see right there where he was taken into custody. Thank God. He's no longer a threat to society. He's no longer a threat to the New York City area, the New York City subway system. That cooperation was great that we had that people called up on him. And basically because the media did publish all of those videos, I'm sure social media had a hand in it as well. So those are the good parts of it. The politics needs to be left behind. We know what the latest crime waves that have been going on in across the country, what they're due to, the attack on police, defund the police, the bail reform laws, the taking away of the plain clothes, all the different things that we've cited numerous times already. We know what the remedies are for this. Let's just hope and pray that, this brings like a new spirit back into New York. Thank God nobody was killed. Thank God his gun jammed. You saw the spirit of New York City people aiding the people that were injured. It gave me like flashbacks of 9/11, so to speak. And, it's a good thing to see. And let's get back on track with taking back our city and bringing down crime.
Surveillance video. The video shows the suspect wearing a reflective vest, wheeling a cart down the street and carrying a bag. Police suspect James opened fire on the subway, shooting 10 people. The NYPD has also just released new images of James. There's a $50,000 reward in this case. I'm Natalie Dudridge for CBS New York.
Phil, might watching that video, might a sharp anti-crime cop have stopped that guy and say, who are you? Let me see some ID. Like, why are you wearing this? Where are you going with this? Are might they've, or even a uniform? I mean, why are you wearing this whole attire? Why you got this mask on? You know what I mean? I think that, that can't be, you can't forget that we had these great plainclothes units that used to do these things, and now they're not around anymore. And it's disheartening because those people protected the citizens of New York. And now, because of wokeness and political correctness, plainclothes units don't exist anymore. And then you have these politicians. I can't. I mean, I feel like I'm getting redundant. But when I see Governor Hochul there, are you kidding me? They just refused to amend the bail laws. She's getting up and standing, talking like she's someone that supports the police. She's not. She is not.
Billy, you're making a very good point, because anti-crime may have spotted somebody like that. Now, not even for the reason of going into the subway and causing this horrible incident terrorist attack, but a lot of times there are scams that go on with elderly people where a guy will dress up in that type of attire, go ring a doorbell, tell the people that there's a leak or there's something that they have to look at, secrete themselves into the home, and then rifle through their personal belongings. All different types of scams. So there's that. There's a stark difference between MTA, transit workers, and that particular garb that he was wearing. He's pulling this bag. Is it tools or is it something else? And he definitely looked out of place. I think that's the point that you're trying to make. Perhaps if there was plainclothes anti-crime units in the area, also on the subway, there was 3 or 4 different anti-crime plainclothes units, whether they were going after people that were, robbing drunks on the train, or just everyday criminals, sexual predators. There was all of those units that have now been taken away. So yes, of course, he could have been spotted by one of them, maybe stopped, and maybe the gun could have been taken from him on a stop, question, and frisk. And this incident may have never happened. I mean, that's the proactive policing that we had in place over the last 15, 20, 25, 30 years that brought down crime. So when you remove those things, it makes it easier for someone like this to commit the horrible, horrible crime that he committed.
That's just giving you an idea of the confusion yesterday when this occurred. As we said early on, he was never a person of interest. He was a suspect
Recovered at
minute
that
one.
scene was a Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended Glock-type magazines. 1 was still in the weapon, 1 under a seat, and 1 in a backpack. We had 33 discharged shell casings, 15 bullets, 5 bullet fragments, 2 detonated smoke grenades, 2 non-detonated smoke grenades, a hatchet, a black garbage can, a black milk type style rolling cart, the gasoline, and a U-Haul key.
Realistic and outspoken. Bill, I want to make a point about his.
Go ahead. I want to take Adams off the screen. I don't want to hear his politicization of this.
Listen, he's probably less in the loop than we really even think he is. But the point I wanted to make about the suspect, Frank James, was this. He seemed to have some type of familiarity with the area in which he committed these crimes. He leaves the subway system at 25th Street and 4th Avenue in Brooklyn after he commits this act. He dumps his getup, his helmet, his vest, or whatever it was, that jacket, that reflective jacket. He dumps it into the garbage. They apparently have recovered it. So, and then he walks from 25th Street. It's about a 20-block walk to 9th Street and 7th Avenue, and he gets on the train again. Now, I didn't talk about this earlier because he wasn't in custody. I'll bring it up now. If he used a Metro card to get into the system, they probably had that information from when he entered the train at Kings Highway, and they were probably able to track that same Metro card if he in fact used it again at 9th Avenue. 7th Avenue and 9th Street to re-enter the subway system. That may be how they knew his movements about, but there is some familiarity with the area. He does have several arrests going back over 20 years ago in the New York area. I believe some of those arrests did occur in Brooklyn, but again, he moved about freely. He seemed to know where he was going. He knew the subway system. He went from one subway station 20 blocks away to another subway station. So that tells me there was some familiarity with the area.
No, absolutely. And, folks, I just want to, we've reiterated time and time again how great an investigation, but left at the scene, when they speak at what was left at the scene, a 9mm Glock handgun, all right, 3 high-capacity magazines, 2, I think, spent smoke bombs and 2 active smoke bombs that weren't set off, a hatchet, some other so gasoline. I mean, all of these things can be tracked and traced. He left his credit card at the scene and the key to that U-Haul. If you didn't know, but
there was some
fireworks, yes,
not non-commercial grade fireworks, like over-the-counter fireworks. So he had a lot more planned than he was able to execute. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, you're right. He planned a lot more of an attack, more blood. But I think the confusion and the smoke bombs and all that may have also worked to confuse him.
Yes.
There was also a statement by a reporter, I don't know, that she tried to criticize the police and the MTA for letting the train go out of the station. I'm not sure it was the R train went out of the station, and apparently he had jumped on that train and got out of there.
The N and the R hook up at that location, and he was on an N train, I believe, going north towards Manhattan, and the R train was going also north, but there's a hookup there. That's what I think that reporter was talking about. At 36th Street, there are several different lines that meet. That's a hookup station where you can transfer from one train to another to go to different parts of the city. So that's probably what that reporter was indicating. Listen, in the moment of panic, they got the train out of there. Were injured people on the train. He may have been on that train unbeknownst to the transit crew that was on that train, but I don't think anything was done with bad intent. It was done with good intent, obviously, and all that confusion. I think you're making a good point too, Billy. The fact that a lot of times when there's a mass casualty shooting, the person firing the shots, there's a mindset where they're in control. They're firing the shots. When something happens, the gun jams, or someone starts shooting back at them, their whole mindset shifts. Now they go into a retreat mode, so to speak, or a fight, flight. They want to flee. They're giving up fighting now. They want to get away from the danger. That's probably what happened to him. A lot of confusion, the gas mask, the smoke, the gun jam. So he panics, and maybe the train doors eventually open in the next couple of seconds or whatever it is, and he exits and he tries to get away. He obviously dumps the helmet that he was wearing and the jacket, the reflective jacket, and then he goes into another direction. He goes on to that other train, which quickly leaves the station. I don't think that there's any criticism for that train crew that took that train out of there.
No, none at all. But I just think, reporters like to try to create.
Reporters are wrong about that. There could have been
create
explosives
controversy
on that train. They may have saved people's lives by getting that train out of there if there had been explosives or a fire or God knows what. I think that was a definite misspeak by that reporter that said that.
One of the things I wanted to say was, folks, with active shooters go into an active shooting not expecting to survive. However, when they're confronted, they frequently surrender. And that is, when you think of the mindset, they're going into this just to kill as many people as possible. And then with the fact that, and they know that there's a good chance that they may be killed. And in many instances, they kill themselves. But when confronted many times, they surrender, which I find a little bit strange, because they went into there with this goal of basically almost like a kamikaze of taking all these people down, and they're going to lose their life too. But when it comes time to meet your maker, many people choose life.
Absolutely. And yeah, the mindset changes. Maybe he had one picture in his mind of this is what I'm going to do. And he was going to shoot all these people and then calmly walk off the train. But, again, the gun jams, he probably had visual problems between the gas mask and the smoke. Maybe that's what thank God, God was watching over that. A lot of these people weren't shot in critical areas of their body. It looked like a lot of leg injuries. So again, he may have had the unbalance of the train moving, going, through the stations. That may have set him off a little bit. He wasn't able to take careful aim. The train is moving. You have to train. If you stand up on a moving train, it's a little difficult to even just keep your balance and stay standing. So you put all of these components together. What he thought out in his mind didn't turn out that way. The gun jams, all that confusion, and doesn't sound like he had a plan B or an exit strategy. He just, he cut and run. He obviously didn't mean to leave all of that, his credit card, the keys to the vehicle, all of that behind. But however he did, which was actually very helpful for us. And detectives jumped all over that, and they were able to secure the vehicle within hours. And then obviously had this morning, there was a full court press to get this guy, and he was arrested this afternoon.
D.D. Robert, thank you for this comment. As far as his mental health goes, a person with antisocial personality disorder and/or psychopathy, excuse me, I didn't pronounce it correctly, isn't going to go in for help. There is no cure. They know right from wrong and choose evil. Thank you for raising that, because there's a good chance that whoever his defense attorney is, they're going to raise insanity as a defense, And as you say, many of the things he did, he thought out. It's premeditated. He thought about doing it. Just in bringing all the things he did to this mass shooting, he thought very clearly about what he wanted to do.
I'm sure there's going to be some type of a defense put forward that he's not in control of his thoughts and everything. But if I saw some of his social media postings, he seems very methodical. He seems very intent on what he says. So they're going to look at that. They're going to speak to him. They're going to, a good psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever does the evaluation is going to be able to tell if he's purposely evading answering questions. They'll be able to come up with a very good psychological profile on this guy. And I think if you look at those media postings, the social media posting between YouTube and Facebook, I don't know if they're still around. Hopefully someone will get played on the news and we'll get the real background on this guy, the real picture of what was going through his mind, what thoughts he had. I think that the professionals will be able to say that he's competent to stand trial for the actions which he committed yesterday on the.
Folks, as we had said this morning, and we've been saying, and we've been reporting on for the last couple of months, the subway in New York City right now is a disaster. And when you get some of these politicians, like the head of the MTA, saying, "Oh, it's people are coming back." Just a couple of months ago, I believe it was, his name is Jano Lieber. I'm going to pull up a little video from this morning. He was going on all the news stations to basically exonerate himself for the broken camera that would have caught the shooter coming in and out of the subway. But the camera, one of the most important cameras, was not working. So he was trying to make a point to exonerate himself from culpability. And that's what I want to play a little bit of this. But, the subway has been the scene of bias crimes, murders, people being pushed on the tracks, homeless people occupying the subway like it's their home. And when tax-paying people of the city complain about it, they get nothing from the politicians. They don't want to hear it, And just recently, to Mayor Adams' credit, he tried to put together a whole task force to remove the homeless people from the subway where they don't belong in the first place. But then you get all these advocates protesting on behalf of the homeless people. And something, homeless is a euphemism. What it really means is mentally ill, alcohol addicted, or drug addicted. That's what it means. And that's why they are homeless. All right. It's not because they don't have homes. That's part of it. But those three other things are the reason that they are homeless, is they're alcohol addicted, drug addicted, or mentally ill. And that's why they're living on a subway train.
One other point that I wanted to make, Billy, I saw an interview with former police commissioner Bill Bratton. He pointed out that 33% of the people that ride the subway don't pay the fare. They do not pay the fare. Fare evasion is not prosecuted. He blamed it on the progressive DAs in all 5 boroughs that they will refuse to prosecute any type of criminal charge for not paying the fare, whether it be a summons or a theft of service arrest. It now became a civil matter, and with enforcement on that, I think that with that, I think he quoted $170 million in revenue is lost annually. I guess it is on fare evasion. I'm not sure of the number, but with that money, I'm sure that we could have a very high tech camera system working throughout the subway system had they enforced and people pay their fare.
Absolutely. Real with Robo, thank you for the $5 super chat.
Thank you.
Insane people don't run. Thanks for making my hubby laugh. When reporters start doing their job, they can speak on others and how they do theirs. 100%. I want to play this little snippet from Jano Lieber, who never met a responsibility he couldn't shirk. And I'm just going to play this right here.
And the material that the NYPD has circulated has a variety of different images of him. So all night long, we have 600 cameras on this one line in Brooklyn, 2,500 cameras, the length of the line. So the cops have been looking overnight at all of the stations, where he got on, where he might have gotten off. There's an enormous range of video. It's one of the things we've done to make the system safer. We went from 30% camera coverage of our 472 stations to 100% camera coverage. So we got a lot of video for the cops to look at, and they're working.
But how do you explain that on this particular train, the cameras do not appear to be working? Was that just a fluke?
Yeah, I think that in the one location by the turnstile, there was apparently a server problem, which they had been working on the day before.
Yeah, they had just been working on it the day before. They had just been working on it, and I take great umbrage with him calling the police the cops, because even though you and I, Phil, know that cop stands for constable on patrol, and it comes from the London police, and it's not a derogatory term, but in the way he uses it, he's just this elitist. The cops, really? You making 400-something thousand a year? You should be fired just because of that camera's broken.
Yeah, he's coming off a little bit, like you said, disparaging, condescending when he uses the word cops like that. But listen, I would think cameras are so important in trying to prevent or to detect or to enforce law when it comes to criminal activity in the subway. So there should be a major priority. Camera goes out. It should not stay broke for more than a couple of hours. The transit authority has plenty of people employed. There's plenty of money in that system. They can get to those cameras and repair them right away. It sounds like a simple thing. They said a server was inactive or something, but why should it take a long period of time to repair? I doubt highly that they.
Phil, I read some stats that at any time, 33% of the cameras are down.
Yep, I know.
So, dude, don't like try to, and then, the cops, they still can get the other cameras. The cops, like this guy, and he's always highly critical of the NYPD. This guy, he's a Hochul appointment, and like I just cannot stand these people that have, they got. And the other thing, what you were talking about with Bratton, about 170-something million not paying their fare. You know what the city's answer to that is? Speed cameras and congestion pricing. They're going to make you pay for it, Phil. They're going to make you pay for it when you go past a certain street in Manhattan. You're going to be hit with a toll. You know why? Because you're going to pay for the guy jumping the turnstile. Speed cameras, you go over 25 miles an hour, Phil, you're getting a summons, a $50 summons in the mail. Why? Because you're a good citizen. You pay your taxes. They can find you. And they know you have a bank account, and they're going to try to empty it.
It happened to me already. Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn, which is basically Ocean Parkway. It's a 6-lane highway. If you go 35 miles an hour, you're over the speed limit of 25. It clocked me at 37. I got a nice gift in the mail. I think it was a $90 ticket or something. This is a couple of years back. But again, and they're using the money from the speed cameras, from the red light cameras, from the traffic cameras, all those violations going to supplement the MTA. So that way people who aren't paying, I mean, I've saw videos where 25 and 30 people at a time are jumping a turnstile. One person opens the gate and, people are waiting and they just flow in. And again, we're not prosecuting it for the same reason that's been going around. It's racist, these progressive DAs in the city. And listen, if we start with that, we will prevent bigger and worse crimes from happening. And a lot of the thugs in the city, the gangbangers, they can use the transportation system without paying fare to go to locations and commit shootings, get back or hop back on the subway and go back to the neighborhood where they live. And, if we have enforcement of that overall over a period of time, we'll have the revenue that we can have working cameras in every station, and we'll also reduce crime.
Rizzy Painting, outstanding coverage, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Joining late to the show. What happens next to this person? The process as detectives. What's going to happen? He's being charged federally, Rizzy Painting. We spoke about that in the beginning. The FBI grabbed him. The U.S. attorney is going to prosecute him, and they're going to prosecute him for a terrorist act that makes him eligible for life in prison. So how's that? Whereas the Brooklyn DA probably would have gave him bail, sent him home with a cheese sandwich, and asked him to come back in to maybe meet some violence interrupters. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but this is what the citizenry of New York is complaining about. We've had it with these politicians. We've had it with these district attorneys. We've had it with these woke policies, this non-incarceral attitude of basically the 5 district attorneys, other than, Staten Island still prosecutes people. Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, they don't want to prosecute anybody.
Very soft on crime. The federal statutes that this case meets the guidelines is the way to go with this case. The penalties will be much greater. There could possibly be even a death penalty charge in here if it's terrorism. I don't know. Maybe if there was, which I'm glad there wasn't, if there had been a death, they may have reached the threshold for a death penalty, sentence. But listen, he's not going to walk free. The federal system is a lot tighter than the state system. You noted the 4 of the district attorneys in Brooklyn don't really prosecute a lot of these heavy crimes. And again, if he goes into the federal system, the good time laws don't apply. He'll have to do over 90%, 95% of his sentence before he'd be eligible to be paroled. And the federal system is definitely the way to go. That's the cases like organized crime, high profile white collar crime go through the federal system. And the guidelines are much stiffer. The penalties are much stiffer. So it's definitely the way to go with this case. And, the feds taking over it. They have much deeper pockets. The investigation will continue on. And I'm sure that they'll look at every little piece of evidence that they could put together, given a profile of this guy, as well as whatever evidence they can recover to, nail the coffin closed on this particular individual.
DP Infomiss, at least give him a ride to Burger King. We can. He likes McDonald's. He was seen in McDonald's today.
He was seen.
So how could we torture him and give him a ride to Burger King? We got to take him to Mickey D's. He probably will get life in prison for this. Yes. And I mean, obviously shooting people is an assault first degree, possibly even charged with attempted murder. Although all district attorneys seem to be reluctant to do that unless you have very good aim and you're shooting to the chest or something, or to the head. Other than that,
I think the terrorism charges might even be more stringent in this case because, again, he crossed over state lines to conduct his terror. The smoke bombs, the intent, the premeditation. I don't think he's ever going to see the light of day.
Folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break.
Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of defense. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you could email Joe at joe@jmurray-law.com.
John Beatty Law, www.jbeattylaw.com. John Beatty is a renowned personal injury attorney. He also retired as a decorated NYPD sergeant. John comes from a proud NYPD and FDNY family. He was an active sergeant in Brooklyn North and supervised in the legal bureau. John is a proud member of the Honor Legion and the Blue Knights. John Beatty litigates across the country for seriously injured victims and has helped recover over $200 million for grieving families. Call John now for a free consultation. John Beatty, 917-797-9520. And that is John Beatty Law, www.jbeattylaw.com. All these members of the service, all these cops and sergeants knocking out a law degree while they're on this job, which to me is completely amazing. How they go back to school at night or day, not seeing their family, get that law degree, and then they retire and they have a whole other career. And a lot of them excel as attorneys because they know the other side of the fence and they know how to talk in front of people. They know how to testify. They know how to interview. They know how to interrogate, and they know how to read people. So
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
a hell of a second career. And Joe Murray and John Beatty, two of the best.
Listen, it's called sacrifice. Like you said, it's difficult to maintain your personal life, your career, and then go to school at night, in which a lot of these cases they are. And when you look at a guy like Joe Murray and Beatty, I mean, they really have shown us that they know how to protect persons' rights and the right questions to ask. And I talked to Joe just the other day about one of the murder cases he's on, and it was very interesting. And he's really pushing hard to do the right thing for his client, and that's what you want in an attorney.
You know, folks, before when I said one of the biggest problems that causes homelessness is alcoholism, drug addiction, and mental illness, and that happens to be a fact. Does that mean every single person that's homeless is an alcoholic, a drug addict, or mentally ill? No, it doesn't. It just means a high percentage of them are, and many of them that are living in the subway system and on the trains have those problems. I should have qualified myself before I said that, but that is a huge problem. However, no one belongs living in the subway system. And we should be able, we're a rich city, we're a rich country. We should be able to get them the services, to get them the hell off the train, get them an SRO apartment, single room occupancy, get them one of those, get them a bed to sleep in, get them 3 meals and a cot, as they say. But they do not belong living in the subway system because it imperils everyone.
Absolutely, Billy. I mean, think about it, how low you have to be in your life that you have to take to the subway system as a residence to sleep. It's pretty terrible. And if you have these addictions or mental illness, it makes it even worse. You got to feel bad for people like that. And they are part of the crime wave that's taking place in the subway. Absolutely, 100%. There's no question about it. But we need to offer services for these people. Like you said, 3 squares and a cot, I think, is the military term. So again, instead of throwing money at violence interrupters and these ridiculous things that they're coming up with, let's try to really interdict the homeless that are in the subways and around the city. It doesn't only have to be in the subway. Try and offer them places to live that are safe. I mean, that's one of the big reluctance to go into a homeless shelter when they're presented with, you can't stay in the subway, you can't stay on the street. We offer you a shelter. A lot of the shelters aren't safe, so they need to improve that. And they need to, like you said, there's probably SROs around the city that they could use to house these people. And I just can't even imagine being so low in my life that I would take to the subway system to use that as a shelter to sleep on. And it's really, it's very degrading. It's very demoralizing. It's terrible. And, you got to feel for these people. You really do. But again, they spiral out of control and then they commit these crimes and these atrocities. And then, the rest of us are left to have to deal with it. So the problem is there. Let's try working on solving the problem and correcting the condition of, these people with mental illness, drug addiction in the subway system.
Jody Van Strien. Good morning, gentlemen from Australia. I'm enjoying my breakfast listening to your amazing insight. What do people in Australia eat for breakfast?
That's a good question.
I'm not going to make a joke. I was going to say, like kangaroo burgers. What? I don't know. That was a bad joke. But what do you eat in Australia for breakfast? I don't know. But thank you, Jody Van Strien, for listening to us. We're thrilled that
thank you.
People from so far away, and I guess you have good Wi-Fi because we're coming in loud and clear. Edward Zachary, no point tackling the homelessness problem. You need to fix the addiction problem first, otherwise they will just return to the streets. Well, Edward, you have a point, but I disagree with you. You got to take the people out of the subway. They don't belong there. They don't belong living on the streets, and they don't belong living in the subway. Because guess what? For the first time, a government official who happens to be the police commissioner of the NYPD mentioned the crime victims. You never hear politicians mention the crime victims because that's not their base. Their base are the perpetrators and the families of the perps. So they don't care about the victims because the victims aren't voting for them.
Listen, if you want people to travel using the subway system, they need it to be safe. They're creating an unsafe condition in the atmosphere in the subway system has not been safe for a very long time. We saw people being targeted by homeless, thrown onto the subway tracks and killed. All these different assaults, murders, shootings, stabbings, everything in the last couple of years. So we had a safe subway system for a good period of time. It's not safe anymore. I think, as Billy stated, he's right on the money. Start with getting the homeless out of the subway system. Put your plainclothes units back into the subway system to interdict criminals in the act. Have enforcement of paying the fare to get into the subway system. It's a twofold there. You can generate revenue, and you can also create a safer space for people to come and go on the subway. We've been through it. Billy and I have been through it. The 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. We know it works. We're not talking from a place of ignorance. We're talking from a place of experience. And let's start there. There's homeless encampments around the city as well. Drug addicted areas where people who are homeless are using drugs, buying drugs, purchasing drugs, peddling drugs, and committing petty crimes. So there's a lot to be done, but we're talking about specifically the subway today based on the incident that happened yesterday.
Edward Martin, what did I tell you guys? He would be close by when they caught him. Edward, we used to joke in Manhattan North, we'd say, the guy's on the run. That means he went to the Bronx. So yeah, we didn't have to go too far. And you were right. He didn't go too far either. He went from Brooklyn to Manhattan, right? Yeah. And he was actually in a Mickey D's. I wonder if they'll use that as a commercial, Hey, have it your way. Well, that was Burger King. But hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, but he fled to Manhattan from Brooklyn. And look, all of the investigative tools they used to find this guy, it came down to a phone call from a civilian calling 577-TIPS, 1-800-577-TIPS, that enabled the police to grab this guy. And that's cooperation. And we say it in so much where we get ad nauseum. If you see something, say something. I can almost hear you guys repeating that. If you see something, say something. And someone did see something, and someone did say something. And it resulted in the perpetrator getting caught in less than 30 hours. And if you guys are just tuning in, he was caught within the confines of the 9th Precinct by 9th Precinct patrol officers who brought him into the 9th Precinct. And then I would think at some point he was relieved. They were relieved of their custody by the FBI, who most likely took him into federal custody because he's going to be prosecuted federally.
Billy, I think the point that we're talking about with the homeless issue regarding the subway system, he actually was ranting and raving on, I believe it was on Facebook or YouTube, one of the two. And he mentioned Mayor Eric Adams, that he was responsible for the homeless problem in New York City. And there's one of the people in chat, Urban Infidel, says, I've seen more homeless on the subways now more than ever in my 60 years in the city. That's a big statement that she's making right there. That's very, very indicative of what's going on in the subway system. When I came on the NYPD in 1982, I was actually a transit police officer in 1982, and there was a ton of homeless then over the years. And most of the homeless were people that, they weren't just people down on the luck. They were people who were alcoholics, drug addicts. They were people who were mentally ill. And that's what the majority of them were. Listen, occasionally there was somebody who just lost their job, felt hopeless, and went into the subway and rode the trains or whatever, but they weren't a consistent problem. They were usually just a quick passing problem, so to speak. But again, I think that this is part of the whole thing that caused this incident. He was obviously James was obviously upset about the homelessness situation in New York City. So that what may have caused him to act out.
Ariful Islam. No, the perp did not call 1-800-577-TIPS on himself. Someone saw him out on the street. They called 1-800-577-TIPS. Also, someone took video of him and posted it on social media and stated, I just saw the subway shooter at such and such location. So with all this information, of course, it stirred up 9th Precinct Patrol, and they canvassed for him, and they found him on the street, walking on the street. And that's how he was apprehended. He was brought into the 9th Precinct, and I would imagine, and I don't have, this hasn't been verified, but I would imagine the feds, the FBI, because he is going to be charged federally with a terroristic act, which carries in itself a lifetime prison sentence. That's why I believe they're going to charge him federally. You don't even know. Maybe even the NYPD requested he be charged federally, since they know with the problem with the Brooklyn DA's office, they didn't want this guy being sent home with a cheese sandwich. So he's going to be charged federally, and they're going to make sure he goes to prison for a very long time, if not the rest of his life.
Yeah, this falls right into the guidelines of the feds. They were up on this case right from the beginning. So again, their jurisdiction based on the terrorism, the subway system, a transportation system, traveled over state lines. There's several reasons to prosecute this case in federal court. And again, we talked about the hammer really coming down on a person that is prosecuted in federal court. So again, like Billy said, great work by those 9th Precinct officers. They got the tips. They were canvassing the area, and they were able to come up with the perpetrator and make the arrest without incident. Thank God.
Margaret Hearn, I know you're one of our favorites. I see you all the time in the chat, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by what I said, because you said I once was close to being homeless and nothing to do with drugs, alcohol, or other addiction. I was sick and needed compassionate care. We know what makes individuals homeless. Everyone can be one paycheck away. You're right.
100%.
That can happen. But the highest percentage of the homeless we're talking about that are living on the subway, it has something to do with alcohol, drug addiction, or mental illness. And I stand by that. And I don't mean to disparage your situation that occurred one time in your life, and you obviously overcame it. But that happens to be a fact of life in New York City and other cities.
All you'd have to do is take a ride on the subway, and I don't mean to engage anyone. If you observe the homeless that are in the New York City subway system in and around the city, it's not going to take a college degree to figure out that some of these people are obviously troubled with psychological issues or addictive issues. And again, we mentioned there is a percentage of people that, their luck just runs out. They, no paycheck, they're thrown out of their home for whatever reason. And it's a pretty low point in one's life to be faced with that. And like I said, and Billy and I both said this, we feel for people like that. And we implore the city agencies to offer help to people like that, and all of the people that are homeless. No one should be, and I think Mayor Adams, I'm going to credit him with this statement, no one should be living in the street or on the subways of New York City. It's just a fact that needs to be penetrated through the ACLU and all of these other progressive agencies that want to, they're going to claim to be, protecting people that are in homeless situations. No one should be living on the streets, especially in the cold winters and, all the different dangers that are out in the street. No one should be living in the subway or in the street. And that's it. Period. End of story.
Phil, I 100% agree with you. We had said, let's go on for like 35 or 45 minutes. And
we're on over an hour.
We're at an hour and 3 minutes because we just love to hear each other talk. We love to hear ourselves talk. But folks, it is a happy occasion that they caught this mass shooter within 30 hours or less than 30 hours from the incident. He's under arrest. He's going to be prosecuted federally. He was arrested by patrol in the confines of the 9th Precinct, 9th Precinct patrol officers, who I would imagine handed him over to the FBI, and we put a dangerous criminal away. And that's what he is. He's a criminal.
Absolutely, Billy. When you think about the amount of information that was released to the public, I initially said to you, and I've said it to other people, I think it was more than should have been released. They definitely should have released his pictures. They definitely should have released the vehicle information. However, they talked so much about very early on about all the other particulars of what was found in his possession. I wouldn't have done that if I was at the helm, but however they did. The point being that the information on the perpetrator, the vehicle, they did great work, speedy recovery of the vehicle, working with the media, working with the public at large. He's now incarcerated. Let's hope that those people that were injured have a speedy recovery. And let's look at this really deep and try to prevent something like this. And let's get those cameras fixed on the subway. I think.
Yeah,
that's all
especially that guy with the $400,000 a year salary. Let's take some responsibility for your job, MTA CEO. What's his name again? Jano Lieber. All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a little responsibility. Stop calling the police cops. All right, in a disparaging tone. Really, they're police officers. All right. Sana Elise Holt Johnson. I don't even know what denomination that is. It's 50 something, but thank you so much. I know you've been listening to us every day. Much love from Norway. Happy Easter, my friends, Bill and Phil. And Sana Elise Hoth Johnson, happy Easter to you too. And thank you guys so much. Folks, obviously you could tell we love doing this show, police off the cuff, and we cover all kinds of different real crime stories. And when we get such a huge success story like this, and it happens to be our alma mater. Is that correct in saying that? The NYPD. We're both from the NYPD. And when we see our compadres do an amazing job like we know they can and like we know they do every single day of the week, we're cheering for them. And thank God they did this. And thank God they're as good at their job as they are. And when we see woke politicians and politicians grabbing the spotlight that when they have nothing to do with this, we call that out. Hope you guys like that, because I do. I like calling these people out that have nothing to do with the investigation, but they want to grab that microphone, But folks, again, thank you so much for listening today. Phil, did I already give Milwaukee Civilian? Thank you for the $20 super chat. Thank you for a great show and great coverage. Keep it up. Thank you, Milwaukee Civilian. Guys, as I said, we love doing this show, and we're growing our audience all the time. And really, if you're not subscribed, get in that YouTube, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and hit that bell. Anyway, Phil, I sort of hesitate to give you last words because we're at an hour and 6 minutes, and we could go.
I need 30 seconds.
All right, take 30 seconds, Phil.
We did like 3 shows today. We did a couple yesterday. I'm going to be going away for a few days next week. I'm going to try and go on from where I'm not going to say where I'm going just yet, but going away with the family for a few days for the Easter holiday. Great work by the NYPD. Thank God that this psychopath is off the streets. He can't cause any more harm. Let's pray for those people that were injured, that they all fully recover. And let's continue to have safe streets and a safe subway system in New York City. We can turn the city around. We call out the politicians for good reason. We know it'll work. We have a lot of experience in the field, and they know it as well. And sometimes they need to be called out. And let's get them to do their jobs. Let's get them off their duffs and get the job done. And hopefully I'll be coming on sometime next week from where I am with Bill, and we'll see you then.
DP Infamous, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. All you guys in the chat, all you guys that watched the show today, thank you so much for your support. Phil and I had a little show that we're supposed to do other episodes on called Coppers in the Kitchen. And we were going to try to teach you guys how to cook. And we only did one episode. And we had a lot of fun doing it. But we got to get back and do another episode of Coppers in the Kitchen,
The minute I get back, I'm thinking about that. And we got to maybe even talk about a cookbook. So we'll see.
All right. That would be great. So, folks, again, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being part of the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories family. Have a safe night.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.